There's a torture technique, Pezza. I refer to it sometimes. It's called Chinese drip torture. I'm not sure why the Chinese is necessary. Probably in the same way that people call it Black Friday sales. Why can't they just call it Friday sales? Which involves, it's basically a hostage situation where people are being strapped to a chair and water is slowly and consecutively dripped onto the same part of either the forehead or the top of the scalp there, same spot. Drip, 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 and until it drives people insane. Now, I don't have any information that the Indian cricket team could possibly want or need, but please let me out of the chair because this is absolute torture. Here's Big Basket now.
This is Baba now, and this is BB now. Matlab Big Basket now, delivering in 10 minutes.
Thanks very much to Big Basket now for getting behind us. Pezza, this just has to be one of the most satisfying days in world cricket for every single fan that is an Australian. If I'm a Kiwi, I'm calling for a national holiday. McGoldrick, I see you. I see the online activity. I respect it. Sometimes you've just got to take your licks in this game, Pezza. But Jesus Christ, this is Sunday night primetime television for the Eastern States. And this is utter humiliation. Thoughts?
It's the sort of day that 4 years ago, truly triggered the Asian century chat. But such is the catastrophic nature of the cliff that this team appears 1 foot over, right? That it's really difficult to heap praise on the opposition just yet. We're into commission territory. I understand how ecstatic Indians must be feeling. They are at the sort of, can you take me higher, to a place where blah, and I add the harmony there. Vibes were so good in that fading light that I'm pretty sure I saw the umpire walking in with the bowler while Siraj was coming in. Is it Kettleborough? I'm pretty sure I saw Kettleborough kind of feeling the vibes and the energy.
Come on in, boys. One brings two here, lads. Come on.
He was into it, and I tell you what, that's what you're going to get when, if you're from India, you've woken up early in the morning, you're watching your boys just pummel Australian under their own western skies. And in the fading light against the backdrop of an emerging generational great in Jaiswal hitting a debut ton in Australia in his first test match here, followed by the veteran and the current great Virat Kohli hitting his own junk time ton, and then Bumrah coming in to dismantle Australia's top order and its captain. Why wouldn't you walk in with a bowler if you're Kettleborough? It's got to be one of the great days for Indian cricket, and it's got to be one of the worst days in modern cricket for Australia. It's certainly, at this point, the worst test that Cummins has presided over. It's the worst performance of this team under his leadership, and it begs several questions that are probably wiser to beg once the game is over. But he goes, it is over. And I wanted to kick off then with, rather than focusing on one person's performance with our three things, just the ecstasy and the agony. I don't know where you want to start with it. If you go from the Australia side, it was just a day of getting absolutely cooked. You're symbolised by Marnus in several ways. A guy who's just run out of capital, which means his eccentricities mean nothing. The eccentricities are writing checks that the runs can't cash, and it's tough going. But where do you want to kick it off?
I want to credit Australia for playing their part in the final couple of overs of the day. We get Sydney McSweeney hunched over with a ball that kept low, offering the opposition, seeing our opening batsman literally bent over. We also get Pat Cummins selflessly offering to be a night watch. Most people don't realise he's actually got a 7:40 tea time at Royal Perth tomorrow morning. So he's brought the sticks over. He'll be out there tomorrow morning. Don't worry about that. And then Marnus takes one with him after leaving one on Midland off. So credit to Australia and the airline that will be taking Australia home to the eastern side of the country for the rest of the series. Pezza, I just want to talk about how if I was to put my finger of the pulse on the Australian sporting fandom nation, and talk about how I feel, and that is that I think I feel embarrassed. Like, I'm not embarrassed for them. Like, I'm not getting like secondhand embarrassment. I was watching Marnus bowl literally at his own toes and watching the ball loop towards Indian batters who were stationed like little league T-ballers waiting to fucking club him to the leg side, to different parts of the leg side. And I actually don't know if I've ever felt that level of cringe. Like, I felt, sometimes like when your team in any sport is shit and you get a bit angry, and you get a bit angry when you see the other team happy. Like, I wasn't that. I was a bit like, oh, this is a very, very low moment in Australian cricket fandom in my life. Like, and this is a good team and the guys are good and all that. But like, I felt embarrassed watching it, which is a weird emotion to have for someone just watching it on TV and just being ground into the dirt. And like, even in games that you play, I was trying to think about what the guys would be feeling, and they'd just be knackered. Like, they've basically fielded for 170 overs out of 210 or whatever there's been in the game. And it's been hot and they're probably undercooked. They haven't played in ages and whatever, but like, they're not a team that's emotional, so, but I felt embarrassed. I don't know, maybe other people would have felt the same way, but it was a tough watch. India played well, but I can't remember a game where I've watched the cricket team be as bad as that, insipid. So it's kind of sad. Funny at the same time, I guess. Funny for everyone else, but that was embarrassing. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that phrase about like, how did I go broke? Like, gradually, then fucking quickly. I think that was exactly it. Word for word. And I wonder if that's that's going to be the question about the Australian team now is, are we witnessing in, the best case, a perfect storm of just, conditions, Bumrah, the boys being a bit undercooked, and that they're, it's the first test in a 5-test series. India was bowled out for 36 in Adelaide. Kind of feeling like that was a bit more of an aberration, easy to say in retrospect, than this, which has been a holus bolus deconstruction at just about every juncture after the first innings. Are we just looking at like, are we watching the decline? Have we met the decline of this team? They should probably get a right of reply in some other games, but it's not looking good.
Here's what I thought. Like, in what world is that deck a deck where a team can score 500 declared? And to sort of go from the point that I think it happened, like, Australia's not a team that takes hangers or scores 25 off and over or blows a team away in a session. Like, you've been really good on this point, and I think it's right, is that, like, the team lives into percentages, and being more experienced and disciplined than their opponents for longer periods, they sort of outlast those teams, And so when a team or a player takes the game to them, they find it difficult to arrest that momentum. And I'm not sure I've actually seen this team sort of come from behind. A great example of like another big series in recent memory with this team would be like the Ashes, right? Like, I just think they're front runners. But like, when I think about the two Ashes away wins last year, Edgbaston and Lords, if Australian fans can remember that, England ceded momentum in both those games by declaring in the first test match after England scored like 400 in a day or whatever. And in the second test match, there was just completely wild cavalier batting at Lords, and it sort of ceded their own advantage to give it back to Australia, who then outlasted them over 5 days. So in this game, when they've bowled India out for 150, but then find themselves 7 for 67, and then Alex Carey gets out the sort of last hope. From there, the game's been over. But there's been so much cricket that has been played since then. But like, India got away to a pretty good start in the first couple of overs in the first innings, in the third innings. Sorry, but like that's where I feel like it's really odd. The game, like, I'm not going to accuse the guys of giving up. They haven't given up, but like they've just been they don't know how to come from behind when they've actually not been that far behind in the course of the game. Like they were behind about 50 in the first innings, right? 46 or whatever. Now they're chasing 534, but the game was over when Carey got out. So that's odd for a very good team.
Yeah, definitely concerning. But there's a lot of people watching this going, come on, let's go.
Cry more. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Crimea River. Now, it's time to introduce the in 10 segment, the 10 minutes that turn the match. Well, that's probably at the toss, but that's thanks to Big Basket Now, delivering electronics, apparel, groceries, ecstasy, the emotion that is, in 10 minutes. And this is the 10 minutes that turn the match. For me, I'm calling out that moment when whatever smoke signal was given towards Nitish Kumar Reddy and Virat Kohli, they put the foot down, and soon after, Nitish Kumar Reddy was absolutely gutted that he'd been retained by Sunrisers Hyderabad ahead of tonight, because he would have gone for about 80 crore as opposed to the 6 that he was retained for. But then secondly, Kohli got himself up to 94, then worked his way to his ton, as is his want and need and right. And not only there's multifaceted reasons for the meaning behind this 100 being like right up there, in that, like, not only is it Kohli putting doubters to bed once again, which basically is the occupational hazard of anybody who's into their mid-30s. You don't have a mortgage on your spot. You have to continually prove yourself because, he's old. So he's got his 100 in Australia. He's away. He's set for the series. That obviously has a compound effect on his teammates. That has a compound effect on the Indian nation, and it also has an equal but opposite effect on the Australian team. Can you imagine? Kohli's already cock-a-hoop chattering away at second slip as it is, even when he drops catches. Now he's bringing a ton into that, and leaving Australia all at sea. Cue great shots of Anushka up in the stands. Australians needs to get out of the way of that.
Get out of the way, Australians.
Just that they're not looking for you, brother. But I'm glad you're there. Drive by. But yeah, you had to be happy for Kohli. He broad smile on his face once he confirmed that he had hit the boundary. I reckon they could have let him know that that had happened. But yeah, both arms aloft. The spider cam whirling around him, saluting the ground, almost taking a lap of honour at the end, given the innings was declared. Obviously, a huge missed opportunity for Jasprit Bumrah to declare on him and let him know who really is boss. I thought I saw Bumrah. This is when India was just in complete control of the Australian psyche. You'd have one camera shot of Bumrah faking taking off his pads and moving forward, threatening to declare when Kohli's on 94 and 95. Then the camera goes to McSweeney, who basically looks like he's shaking, and you can actually see him communicating with Khawaja, saying, I'll take the first ball, as his finger jitters in the air. And you just think, oh my God, this is, the pain is unbearable. But, that's what happens when a team completely outplays you.
Can you think of a more perfect day for India where, Australia's greatest ever players, are literally in Saudi Arabia in the league that they've just completely changed cricket with, and they're completely dominating Australia. One of those players, by the way, bidding on their players in the IPL, did question, Virat Kohli's form. He's just scored another 100. That's 10 against Australia. That's his 7th in Australia, I believe I'm right in saying. This is everything that happened against New Zealand's already forgotten. This is the total deconstruction of Australian cricket on a surface that these players have never lost a game on. They've played 4 times at Optus Stadium, 4 wins for all these guys. No one's really come close. We've just had win after win. Every single pundit said, yeah, well, Australia win in Perth. We'll concede that. People talking about setting up the series. I mean, this is such an enormous win I'm getting texts from all over the world, Pezza. Not many from my mates in Australia, I've got to be honest, who are more Big Bash fans. Looking forward to seeing the Scorchies go around again this year. Scorchies against Melbourne Green, BBL Coventry, Alt Comms, Channel 7, TGC. That's what we're talking about. Mate, this is
I'm a BBL fan now.
I need to get a foam finger with a BBL team on it. Yeah. This is just utter destruction. And you know what? Well done, India. Good for business.
Yeah. No, I like it. Let's build on that a little bit. Like, is it not enough, India, to summon our greatest, our best and brightest, Ponting and Langer to fucking Jeddah in Saudi Arabia while our team is on its knees? Because your political economy has ensured that we're all capitalistically incentivized to go to Jeddah to bid on
suckling at the teat.
In
front of the Justin Langer stand.
Can't you just beat us normally? Or do you first do it at the Gabba and then you come and do it in Perth? You can't just beat us on normal runs. You have to come and you don't ever want to beat us in your format, one day cricket at Ahmedabad in front of your PM. You have to come and do it at our house. You have to come and do it where we actually care about it. I'm not so much people at Perth, but so all of these victories that you have over us in Test cricket, they're not just normal wins. It's like they're holus bolus. They're cradle to grave. They're the sorts of things that you have to explain to your children in the morning. While they're crying, eating cornflakes. What does this mean, Daddy? Who is your Shavsi Jaiswal? Why is my teacher making us write his name? Why? That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing to us, bruh.
Well, when a man and a woman love each other very much, the other one fucks the other one.
I guess, look, the only thing to say about Kohli as we walk through this is, and this is more of an open question to the Australian cricket team or whoever was at the ground, who goaded him into a fight? Because we were really clear. We were really, really clear. The entire nation spoke to itself before this series and said, what you don't want to do with Kohli is get him into a contest and get him into a fight. I mean, it was already fucking 3 million for 2 when he came in. He didn't need to score any runs. The deck had started to do a little bit. Why was there any need to goad him into a fight? Who was it that did that? Something to think about. Probably Shreyas. So yeah, that's Kohli. Now he's into the series. Jaiswal, he goes. I mean, we've spent far too long talking about everything else. This is I mean, it's the Jaiswal generation. He again a seminal innings that once again it really, I think it really put into focus what India has got coming up next in their talent line of production. And then when we open the cupboard, mate, I am seeing fucking cobwebs. I am seeing Panadol from 1993 that may still be good. I'm seeing an old Band-Aid, which I recoil at, and some maggots. Whereas India's cupboard is stocked full of whatever you need. From Big Basket, by the way.
Yeah, we've got thyme, we've got cumin, but we've been moving around from house to house. Just a couple of old flavors. I've never used it in my cooking.
Mate, trying to get that Moroccan seasoning out. It's kind of stuck a little bit in because it's been around for about 5 or 6 years. At best.
Pretty hard to use it when I have toast for dinner every night and cereal. But there was a moment, Pezza, when Jaiswal and let's talk about his dismissal now. A weak shot. He hits a half tracker to Steve Smith at backward point off Mitch Marsh, and he throws his head back in disbelief. Another great example of when is cricket good after hitting 161 in Australia. Actually, probably missed out today, to be fair. But there was a moment when so he's obviously disappointed, and he stands there and he's throws his head back. But then Kohli seems to call out to him as he's walking towards the pavilion, and Kohli starts clapping his hands. And it seemed to give a moment of clarity to Jaiswal of what he just accomplished. It was a great innings. It was a patient innings. It was 297 balls, I think it was. And then shortly after that, he takes his lid off and he throws his head to the sky and he lifts his arms up either side of him like he's parting the sea. But But it just it was a moment of a great maturity, I think, for a 22-year-old kid. Also great leadership, I think, from Kohli at the other end in being sincere, because he could have easily just not taken in that moment. And people in the commentary are talking about how special an innings it was, and it was a special innings. And everyone that's played cricket knows that you're disappointed no matter what your score is when you get out. But Kohli seemed to snap him into a place where mate, what you've achieved is amazing. Take that in and just walk off and hold your head up. And I think that was sort of my takeaway from the innings, because the rest of it was just complete perfection. I mean, the offside play is awesome. I know some guys on commentary talking about maybe they'll try the short stuff for the rest of the series. All the best. I'm sure he's got plenty of answers for that as well. But it was just great. It was a great innings. What was he say?
It's a real credit to him. This is the tension of these discussions so often. It's just far too glib and facile to analyze this game through the lens of either India being really good, Australia being really bad. And we've said this so many times before, that they are in symbiosis. Those things, the team that plays well renders the other team bad by virtue of how well they're playing. And vice versa. I don't think the tail has wagged the dog here. And with Jaiswal, who comes into this series with the expectations of generational greatness, knowing that one of those boxes you need to tick is to score runs in Australia. And we're talking about there are guys who will go down as greats who haven't managed to do that, just as there have been Australians who have gone to other countries and not been able to conquer it. I'm thinking Warner in England, you might even say Punter in India, etc. For Jaiswal to come here, particularly in the first innings, to get out to a pretty ordinary shot, to be honest, to fix it that quickly and to basically conquer Australia in his first test, to have that feather in the cap straight away. And you get that sense, whether it's back and forth with Mitchell Starc or the way he carries himself in the field, that he's not scared at all, and that is what also makes it a further dark day for Australia, is that young guys are coming here and going oh, is this it? Sorry. Is this, sorry, Perth and all that kind of stuff, and the cabal on a tough deck. Is that it? I'll take my 160. All good. and I'll be pissed off as well when I get out. So it's a seminal 100, not just for the runs in itself, but what it might mean for what's coming next for Australia and India. Finally, he goes, where to for Australia from here? I know we've probably talked about it a little bit. All I can say is, they look so weary. Cracks appear to be emerging, that they are entitled to a right of reply. India was able to do the same thing in Adelaide, but I got to say, to me, it just looks like old dump truck's tired. Old the dump truck is tired. So, they have been written off before. They were in the World Cup and they come back, but and they are slow starters, Australia. I'm curious to see what kind of wake-up call this might be for them. I thought that, to your point about the emotionlessness of the Australian team, which has been a bit of, to me, it's been a little bit of the way that they've dealt with who came before. That there's so much intensity and aggression in Australian cricket. Cummins and McDonald have defined themselves by matters of process and themes and values of calmness and percentages and control. I actually, that's frustrating to watch when Australia's getting pumped. I actually liked Cummins coming out to as the night watchman, though it failed. I liked it because I felt like it was a symbolic acknowledgement that something different needed to happen, like something away from the Australian plan needed to happen. There needed to be some injection of feeling to it, and still snicked off deluxe, but yeah, there is real cause for concern.
Someone's got to score 100 tomorrow. I was just thinking there, if two guys get 60, is that enough? And I don't think it is. I think tomorrow is a day that someone needs to show something that this team isn't about to fall over. Because we were talking for a couple of months before this, Pezza, this first game, saying it's interesting because both teams are sort of on the edge, and one team has risen up through excellent outstanding world-class performances, and the other looks like there's about 6 guys on the edge. And so I think like tomorrow, whilst the game is already over, tomorrow is a huge day for the series in some regards, you know, because if Australia's bowled out for 160, I actually don't know what happens. I don't know if changes would need to happen, but like this team looks underprepared. It looks like it hasn't played in 9 months. It looks old. It looks out of form. That's recency bias, but where does Australia go to from here? I think like someone needs to score 100. I think that's Carey, Marsh, Smith, or Head needs to score 100. No one needs to do anything, but that's what I'd like to see. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, and if they are too old, there's nothing they can do. It'll just show itself up, and it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, I think that that so many of them are still in the team is probably a reflection of them having kind of earned the right to stay on for as long as they want, because this team's won most of the things that they've wanted to win,
Yep.
and now it's and now we kind of deal with the consequences of that a little bit. So that'll be interesting. Okay, a couple of thoughts from AskTGC. We just put this up on Patreon, and so I'd say largely Anglo subscribed platform. Anyone can join us, patreon.com/gradcricket, or on Apple for the frictionless experience. There was 103 replies to the question, to the request for questions. So I'm just going to read a couple, and I will read their bios. Actually, Reprobate Chameleon says, "What's the fucking point?" I-Edged Ball Tracking says, "Rope how much?" Mr. Blobby's Micro Penis says, "Can McSweeney's granddad get a refund on his flights over?" Cum Gutter's Dirty Seam says, "Indian passport where get?" India Sundaresan says, "Do the Indians have nuclear weapons?" Bill Morrow says, "Higgins wedding budget upper limit." Mary in the Drink says, "Australian cricket fall off the cliff when?" Mannequin dressed in 2001 Kiwi ODI kit says, "India playing well, clearly isn't ICC final." And finally, Ivan Malatpad says, "Fuck Cam Green is a good player." Oh, well, our subscribers are funnier than us. That's the secret.
I got to tell you, yeah, as each run was piled on and as each Marnus ball dotted up before he kicked one over, a lot of people on Patreon telling me how big my wedding was going to be. So all of a sudden, if you want an invite to the wedding and you're like, please just get on Patreon. I'm sure you get an invite. I'm sure you find your table somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, well, any other final words, Pez?
No, that's a different podcast. But if you like our stuff, you're here, subscribe, back it up. We'll tell you when we think Australia's shit. Let's be honest. Business has been tough for TGC for the last 5 years. Sandpaper was the best thing that happened to TGC, and if we're looking at another little phase or another era of that, why not subscribe now? Why not jump on board? Because that's really when the going's good, when you can kind of skewer the culture of Australian cricket unfairly. And often, focusing on people that you quite admire, actually, with what they've achieved.
We'll be back right here tomorrow to wrap it all up ahead of another big week on TGC, of course. So actually, a huge show, huge week coming up this week for TGC, but more on that later. Thanks for joining us. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Please do like the video if you haven't. And, I guess we'll just go and cry into our pillows tonight. See you tomorrow.